Today I'm going to talk about adding pears into Bedfordshire and also then throwing them out in cloth stitch. Before I actually start talking about it, I just want to mention the pattern. This pattern has a lot of areas of cloth stitch and also some half stitch in them, and one thing people find useful to do is to actually colour in the areas of cloth stitch and sometimes contrasting areas for half stitch to remind you to work half stitch rather than the cloth stitch. This really helps you to be able to see which pinholes belong to which area of the pattern. Whenever you're starting a new pattern, make sure if there's a marking on the pattern for the direction of work that you put that in a vertical position and you put your cover cloth across it at right angles. This will help on a pattern like this, which is quite fluid, to maintain the direction of the cloth stitch, because you want to aim for being horizontal against that line. If you've got your cover cloth on there, then this helps maintain that direction of working. I'm not going to actually start the whole piece because I've started another video showing you working in both directions, so I'm going to assume that we've started this, and I'm now going to start on one of these petals of the flower and show you how to start the petal, putting pears in at the top, adding pears as it gets wider, leaving pears out to come into the next area of cloth stitch, and also when you get down to the bottom, throwing pears out. On Bedfordshire patterns, you often find the markings for plaits are marked between two pinholes. This indicates a plait comes into a cloth stitch area around one of those two pins. As the maker of the lace, you have to decide whether it comes into the first one on the left or the second one. Neither is more correct than the other. It depends on how you want the finished lace to look. I've started the two plaits that will be coming into this leaf, and I put them on there and have a look to see how they're going to look. Now, because I've hung that into one of the picot holes, let me just put it up there so we can see it better. You can see if that was the plait coming in, either of those pinholes would be okay. You then look at the other one coming in, and again either of those pinholes would work. So you have to make that decision. On this one I'm going to put it back in there so I don't need to make such a long plait. I'm going to put it to come into the left hand one. So I'll put the pin under that plait to start off with. Now when we look at this leaf, or this petal even, you can see there are 3 pinholes in line on the top of this petal. So we need something in each of those 3. The second plait I'm going to put so it comes into that left hand pinhole. So I've now got 2 out of the 3 pinholes covered. If those pins were in a line and there was 4, you could hang 2 pears onto that pinhole and work across this one, but I think this one is down that little bit, so we'll work across the 3rd pinhole in cloth stitch. Now if we was to put the pin in there, you would have a space, so we're going to add another pear, and this is adding pears into a cloth stitch. Put it on a temporary pin to the side and just hang a pear over it. Now I've got the pear hanging on a temporary pin, I just cloth stitch through it, put the 2 twists on and put the pin up, and this will help fill the cloth stitch. Tension it up and work back, and again once you get back to the other side you're going to need another pear adding. Now I'm just watching this petal because we do have a plait coming out, but I feel it's probably from the 2nd pinhole, so I'm going to add one end to the point on a temporary pin to the side of the area you're working on. Now obviously if you've got all of this around here, you have to find a pinhole that is vacant a little bit below. It doesn't matter where it is, Once you've worked it, put the pin in and worked across, then you take it out. So because the one across the right hand side is now supported, I can take that temporary pin out and just ease it down and get rid of the loop. Don't forget to take those temporary pins out, you'll end up with loops. And I work back across. And again, it's still getting wider on the right hand side, so I'm going to repeat that. A temporary pin and add one in. Just cloth stitching through and putting the twists on. The one on the left can now come out and ease that loop down. Whenever I'm easing a loop down, I'm always holding the worker pair as well so it doesn't pull in. And work back through. Now this time I've got a plait coming out and I need to leave 2 pairs out at this next pin for the plait. However, one thing to note on this pattern, the external, the first pairs left out are plaits. When it gets more dense towards the centre of the flower, I've actually left out them as twisted pairs. So just pay attention to whether it's 2 pairs for a plait or a twisted pair later on. I put the pin up, and again I can ease the one down on the right hand side. And I work through the first 2 pairs in cloth stitch and leave those 2 pairs out for a plait and push them well up to the side so they're out of the way. You can put a divider pin in to hold them out of the way, to remind yourself should you need to. I'll work back across. Again, add in another pair. You need to make this cloth stitch a consistent density to make it look good. If you get it too thin and flimsy, it doesn't look good. But on the other hand, you don't want to put too many pairs in, but it makes it too dense either. This is about the right density we've got now. Perhaps can't see behind through the pins. But it wants to look like a piece of woven cloth. Now this time when I come across, I think I've probably got enough pairs in there. So we'll just have a look at it. And if in doubt, put your pin up and have a look, tension it up, and if necessary, go back and put a pair in. And I think that's quite a nice density there. Continue to work until it starts to get narrower. Now on the right hand side this time, I've actually got a plait coming out here. But if I take 2 pairs out from there, it won't leave enough for the cloth stitch. So I'm going to have to put 2 pairs in on the right this time. As I say, just check your pattern when you're working these as to whether they are a plait or a twisted pair. In Bedfordshire you find both. So this time I'm going to hang 2 pairs on the temporary support pin at the side in open formation, rainbow style, so you've got one astride the other. You don't want them like that side by side because then the pairs won't be joined. If you put them open formation, you can work through 1 pair, put your twists on and put your pin up. This means the 2 pairs you've added in are around this pin and completely supportive when you come to do the plait. Those 2 pairs now that you've added in are left to one side for that plait. Now if you'd taken 2 out, you just wouldn't have enough pairs to fill this cloth stitch area, and it's something you need to be very mindful of, particularly when you first start doing this type of floral Bedfordshire. You can see I've maintained the cloth stitch. Now very shortly I'm going to start throwing pairs out. What we need to do as we're coming to the point where we're going to throw them out is to check to see how many pairs we need to leave out rather than throw out. So I'm going to have 1 there. I need to finish with 2 for this plait, so that's 3. And there isn't one marked over this side, but I probably would need 1 there to just join it as well. So that's 4 pairs in total. Check how many you've got in. You've got 6 in this petal at this point, so I know at some point I'm going to have to throw 2 pairs out. And if you try and plan it a little bit ahead, you don't end up with a lot of pairs left in that you're struggling to get rid of. Now it's starting to get narrower, but I think at the moment it's okay. It's just something you need to be mindful of, not to get too thick. And again, because I haven't got a plait or a twister pair marked, I've got to then decide. I'm going to leave it till it's quite low down before I leave it out, to space it out from the plait on the right hand side. Now it's getting to the point where I think I need to throw one out. So I'll just zoom back out a little so you can see what I'm doing. And look at this, I don't want to take the edge ones each time. I want to take them somewhere in the middle, and I'm going to take a pair that is next door but one to each other, like that. And you just pick them up, put them through the pins to the back of the lace, and continue to work. So that's one of the 2 pairs I've thrown out. This time I'm leaving a pair out for a twisted pair. And I always tend to put the twists on straight away, so that if I was to mistakenly come to that, I would be able to see the twists are on there. That must mean I've left it out. And that's just a little tip that helps you remember. Now I think on this one I'm going to leave the twister pair out this side, because it's getting quite narrow now, the space between the pins. So this one comes out, and put the twists on again to remind yourself. I'm now down to 2 pairs of passives and 1 worker, just for the last 2 rows. Now at this point, before I go to the very final pin where I need 2, I'm going to take a pair out. Now having said you can't take the ones out from either side, you've only got the 2 side ones, so you have to make a decision which side you're going to take it from. But still take next door but one to each other. And finish off at the bottom with the 2 pairs for the plait to go in the centre. And straight into a plait. And that's how you would add pairs in for plaits to come straight out, adding pairs in to fill up the cloth stitch, and leaving both plaits and single twister pairs out. I hope you've enjoyed the video and it's been helpful. Please comment, subscribe so that you see new videos coming soon, and let me know if there's anything else you'd like to see. Thanks for watching.